you can feel that you're ready, but the external things not be ready for you to make that decision. A lot of people ask me like, oh my God, what did you study to do this? What did you study to do that? And sometimes it's so much more about how you use your experiences in your advantage than what you've studied. I'm going to extract knowledge from this job instead of giving knowledge. And then you become a better professional, better employee. I was always kind of lost what I wanted to do at school with my life, like 17 years old. How the fuck are we supposed to know? I think a lot of women have this feeling that like, oh, if I really like what I'm doing, does it really count? I am dropping out of my very stable life in Norway.
Ana Clara Gontijo is a multidimensional woman that is an entrepreneur. She worked for a big fashion group in Norway. She worked with a jewelry brand where she found her passion. And the special thing about this conversation is that we spoke at a very pivotal moment of her life. In this episode, we talked about the feeling of not knowing what's coming, of taking a chance on yourself and having the courage to pursue your dreams. Joining us at the Adults Table today is Ana Clara Gontijo. Ana Clara Gontijo. I'm going to say that again. Ana Clara Gontijo, what are you bringing to the table today?
Well, I feel like I'm taking everything out of the table lately. I am kind of dropping out of my very stable life in Norway and going to spend some months back in Brazil, where I'm from. So that's how I'm feeling right now. Like I'm not bringing anything, just removing, if that makes sense.
Okay, tell me more about this moment. What's going on? Why this change? Give us the backstory there.
Okay, it's a long one. I live in Norway right now, in Oslo. I've moved here almost 3 years ago, both for a job and to live with my, at the time, fiance. And I had the best time at my first job here. Some challenges related to being an immigrant in a very white country. But I had the best time. It was amazing. But at some point, I had to move on and change jobs. And then before, I was a fashion buyer. So I was buying clothes for a fast fashion brand here in Norway. And then I went to be a product manager at a jewelry brand. And I fell in love with the industry. And it just clicked. I felt like I really found what I wanted to do with my life. And as we were talking before we started about having like some entrepreneur's mind, I felt like every day being at a company that does what I want to do for myself was harder and getting harder and harder to be doing for someone else what I felt like I wanted to do for myself. And just sat with my husband and we decided that it made sense for us right now to take a break from Norway, spend some months in Brazil. That's his biggest dream. And yeah, so we did it. I quit my job and we're going for a while.
Okay, so many questions there because you're making this move back, which in itself I have so many questions about because I also live abroad and many people who listen to this podcast live abroad. But I want to ask you more questions about what you said, like it just clicked and this changed from being a fashion buyer to working with jewelry. First of all, explain to us what a fashion buyer does, because I feel like a lot of people don't know, and explain to us what you were doing at the jewelry brand.
Well, so a fashion buyer is kind of the one who orchestrates the entire fashion collection. Everyone knows what a fashion designer does, which is drawing the pieces and like constructing the clothes. But before that, in every brand, in every business, there is or there should be someone doing the planning of that collection before it starts getting designed. So in the end, it's a business. It's supposed to make money. So you have to have a smart plan in order to make clothes that will sell. And of course, that looks different in every business. Where I used to work with fast fashion, that I think I can say that the buying part is even more, I don't want to say more important, but it holds more weight in the process than the design part, because it's a lot more about how much the pieces are going to cost and how much you're going to sell them for. So it's this whole planning part of what a collection will look like and how much money that collection is supposed to make, and the whole strategy behind that. Like, how am I going to reach my targets? How much can I pay for something? And if I can only pay X amount for like a pair of jeans, what supplier will I reach out to that I know that will deliver good product at that price range? And in order to do that is a lot of studying and analyzing data, because you need to look at the best and also be able to forecast and to understand what are the decisions you're going to make. And just because I know that like you like fashion, you talk about it as well. So I'm sure people who listen to the podcast have some, maybe has some type of interest. Just the way that the buyer job relates to the design job is that the buyer will kind of dictate what the designer needs to design, at least in a fast fashion brand. It's not a lot of like creative freedom. It's mostly about like, I need this to be able to make X amount of euros. So you have to design what I'm asking for. And that was really cool. I loved being a buyer. It's so much fun, especially the way I worked, that I was very involved in the process. And then now, uh, after I moved on to the jewelry business, I'm a product manager. It's kind of similar. It is just more focused in product development now than the strategic planning part. So it's a little bit more focused on handling the production. So still work with designers. They have a lot more freedom, a lot more say. Also, because it's the company I work for is in the affordable luxury range. So design has a lot more say. And we have a creative director who is the founder. So it's a big thing in the company. And so today I handle the what comes from design team, and then what needs to be translated into production, and then I reach out to suppliers. So I make this bridge between design and production.
I didn't know about the fast fashion piece. I didn't know that that's how it is and how it works. That's very
Yeah.
interesting, and it makes sense.
It's,
But how did you end up there, both in that job specifically and in Norway?
everything happened at the same time, actually. I was always kind of lost what I wanted to do at school with my life, like 17 years old. How the fuck are we supposed to know? That's so crazy. So I just took I'm not going to say easy, but I took the obvious path and I went into business administration. Thought that was neutral enough, and I was not going to waste my time. I was going to learn something, but I always knew I wanted to work with fashion or related areas. I always loved this universe. And then I had my own swimwear business for 5 minutes. It was a lot of things. I was very immature, knew nothing, pandemic, all that. And then when it was almost the end of the pandemic, I was looking for formal jobs, but I wanted it to be in the fashion area. And the experience that I had was with my bachelor's was in business administration. So I actually got a job as a buyer assistant at West Wing in Brazil for the fashion and the lifestyle section of the e-commerce. And I was in Portugal at the time because my mom lives there when I interviewed and when I heard that I got the job. And in the same trip, I met a guy. And this guy was Norwegian, is Norwegian. We met each other, we liked each other. I went back to Brazil, started this job in São Paulo at West Wing. really liked the job, like found myself as a assistant buyer. I was, I want to say, the best assistant buyer because I really loved it. I was like, wow, that's what I want to do with my life. And at the same time, I was initiating a relationship with this guy. And then he is Norwegian. He spent some time in Brazil, but he lived in Norway. So we just had to figure it out. And we got to the conclusion that it's really hard for a Norwegian or any other nationality to move to Brazil and get a nice job and like especially not speaking Portuguese. So it just made sense that I would have to find a job here. But I told him like, look, there's no way in hell I'm moving without a job. And he actually even proposed to me before I got that job. I think he wanted to make sure I was coming, but I was like, yeah, I'll marry you, but I'm not moving without the job. And then I think 6 days later, I got a call from this company that I was already in an interview process. And they told me like, oh, you got the job. So I got the same time that I made my relationship with him a bit more serious, being engaged. It was when I got the job here. So I just went back to Brazil, packed up my life, packed up my dog, and moved here for him and the job. Free.
I love how the stars aligned. Like the relationship and the job, and then it all happened at the same time, and everything worked.
And now it happened again because I just got married and I just quit
Yeah.
the job.
That's awesome. So then, okay, so then you were at this job, and it sounds like you were a good fashion buyer, and it sounds like you really enjoy that. How is that different than what you do or what you did at the jewelry brand? Like in terms of feeling, especially because I'm trying to figure out when you say you clicked, like what does it feel like? How would you describe it?
Yeah. As a fashion buyer, how I felt is that I felt like I had a lot of ownership of the process. So I was the one building the strategy, and I was able to try to look at the brand with like outside eyes and understand what the brand needed and come up with a plan and execute and follow through. And when I moved to the jewelry job, what I do right now is a part of the process. And I'm really passionate about doing things start to finish. Like, I'm not the one who starts to go to the gym on a Thursday. If I'm gonna start going to the gym, it's gonna be on a Monday. If I'm gonna start like to learn a new language, it's going to be next year or at least next semester. So in terms of feeling, I just feel like I like to be and I kind of need to be involved in more parts of the process than what I did on the second job.
So for you to have that awareness, okay, so you like to be involved. Is that something that you found out through this experience? Is this something that you always knew? Like, what are some of the things that moving from one job to the other you found about yourself and your skills, and to the point that you made a decision of, okay, I don't want to do this for somebody else. I want to do this for myself, and this is the path that I want to follow.
I kind of always knew that I wanted to do something for myself. The people I admire the most professionally happen to have their own businesses or have this mindset. And I tried some years ago with the swimwear. It really didn't work because I would say a lot of like lack of experience. Fresh out of college, no serious professional experience in trying to do a business for yourself. But I'm gonna give myself some grace and say that with the resources that I had, I did great. Uh, a lot of the processes to like build the brand, make my business plan is things that I actually encountered in my career many times inside of huge companies. So I'm like, oh, I was doing something right. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing something right. And even though the experience like didn't work out because I had to finish the business, it was amazing. It was the most fun I've ever had. It's even a bit hard because I had so much fun that sometimes it doesn't feel like it was actual work. I'm like, was I really doing something or was I like just playing? Because it was so nice. And I think a lot of women have this feeling that like, oh, if I really like what I'm doing, does it really count? And duh, isn't that the whole point? But yeah, I always knew that I wanted to do something for myself. But when I started to work for bigger companies and I saw how much I still had to learn, I was like, no, okay, let me slow down. And something that always helped me go through difficult times at corporate jobs was to just look at it as an opportunity to learn, to see like, look how much I can absorb from being in this company, in this environment, working with all of these experienced people. Like these resources I could not find anywhere. Like I couldn't do an MBA that would give me what I learned in a month in a company that is already well established. So I was like, yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and learn everything that I can. And when I'm ready, I'm gonna do something for myself. And I've been postponing it, but also because I wasn't really sure. I loved being a fashion buyer. I'm obsessed to this day. I want to like go to stores and take pictures of things and like do fashion research. And I don't work with that anymore. But I was sure I didn't want to make clothes. And then when I started working with jewelry, especially with stones, I was like, yeah, that's so cool. I could do this all day. I do it all day. The feeling that I had that I was learning, hence gaining time, started to feel like I was wasting time.
That's a good way to put it. So how did you know that you were ready? Is it because of that feeling of like, okay, now I'm feeling like I'm actually wasting time? Or how can somebody know if they're ready, I guess?
I think it's a bit more complicated than that because you can feel that you're ready, but the external things not be ready for you to make that decision. And I acknowledge that I come from a very privileged position of being able to quit my job and say, I'm going to spend 6 months a year back in my home country. Not everyone can do that. And I would never do it if I didn't plan for this type of moment my whole life. Like, since I came here, I always saved. I am very smart with my money. I'm very concerned about tomorrow and needing something. And I always knew like, I never knew exactly what I was gonna use my savings for, but I always knew there would come a time that I would need to use them. So I was like, I'm just gonna keep saving and keep doing it. And I will also say that after getting married and the relationship changes so much with this person, even though we've been engaged and living together for like 2.5 years, after we got married, the feeling of being like family and responsible for each other was so big that I felt very safe to make a bit challenging decision and know that I have somewhere to fall back if I have to. And he was so supportive. So yeah, it was like a combination of things. I felt that I was ready because I am in a position where I can make like that as a safe choice. But at the same time, I could have felt that I was ready and not have these things to keep me safe. And then I would definitely have continued my big girl job until I could make a better decision. But I think it was like when you're in a corporate job and you love something else and you can have it on the side. And let's say I was working in this jewelry brand and I found out that I love baking. I would totally have a baking business on the side. I would bake all night and like sell my cakes at work. But being in a jewelry company means that I cannot have my own jewelry company. Like it's rules. And that was very helpful because I had no choice. It was like, yeah, I can't stay if I want to work on my own thing. Or to be honest, like I don't have a business plan. It might be that I just study jewelry and end up in another jewelry company. But that's not very certain yet. But yeah, I feel like not having a choice was such a blessing.
One thing that I wanted to ask you about is So you're telling me that your husband is also an entrepreneur, but he's Norwegian. So I'm wondering if his culture or the way that he was raised, like how do they see work? Is it different than the way that we see it in Brazil, for example, or in the US? Did that change the way that you see it? I'm curious.
So much. It's crazy. I'm actually studying now for a Norwegian test that I'm gonna have in a few days. And one of the questions there is about it's like it's a sentence and they ask you to talk about it. Talk what do you think about it. And it's like the sentence is like Norwegians really care about their jobs. Norwegians are very career focused, period. And you have to talk about it. And when I read that, I was like, no. I mean, I think that's changing a bit. Like the maybe the United States and the rest of Europe, it has some influence and it's not easy anywhere right now. The market is so bad for everyone. But I will say that Norwegians are known for having a very big life work balance. If it's summer and it's a sunny day by 3 p.m., no one's at the office anymore. And that's totally understandable. Like, oh my God, we have to go swimming, we have to go do something. So I think everything collaborates for it. Like they grow up in a very safe environment economically, and that makes them very free. Like when I met my husband, he had just taken a year, like quit his job and went sailing. He went crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Like
That's
he
wild.
has been doing boat stuff his whole life, but he had never done anything even close to crossing the Atlantic. And they were like, him, his friend, and his brother were like, let's just quit our jobs and go sailing. And he was already in a big guy's job, like working in marketing. And he was not scared to do it. And when I met him, I thought he was insane. I was thinking, oh my God, like, should I start a serious relationship with a man who can just like quit his job? Because in the, I will say Brazilian, but also in my own mentality. And that's something I talk about in therapy a lot because I really need to start learning how to separate work and life. But I was like, if he doesn't care enough about his job, but of course, after being here for 3 years, your mindset shifts so much. It's impossible not to get a little bit influenced by their thoughts, and you start feeling a bit safer. Because at the same time, right now, I think, well, if everything goes wrong, we come back to Norway and we get a job. I get a job, and it's gonna be fine. Even though it might not be, but I don't know, the mindset changes.
That's such a crazy concept. I remember when I studied abroad in Australia, I met so many people from Scandinavia in general that they were like, "Yeah, we're just here for a year. We're doing like a trip around the world, and we're doing like a nomad situation." And this is like back in 2016. Like, yeah, we just graduated, and then we're gonna take 1 year off. And I'm like, what? What? And yeah, I think the economical background of the country or the countries in this case help a lot. Of course, like it makes sense that the mindset is different. But I feel like especially here in the US, it's something that like people don't understand. Or in Brazil, South America in general, because the work mindset is very much like, yeah, you cannot quit your job or do something like that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's always like, how am I going to explain this year gap on my
Yeah.
resume?
Yeah, exactly.
That was the one thing that I told him when I was like, should I quit this job? Because how am I going to explain? Even if I'm looking for jobs again, what am I going to say? And he was like, there's nothing that's going to be more valued by an employer than you trying to do something for your own, like doing something yourself. That's the most valuable thing that you can have in your resume. So you're actually doing a great professional move. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Okay, I guess I want to quit.
I don't know if I fully believe him on that though, because he maybe was trying to make me more confident or more comfortable. But that's how he lives his life. Like he went sailing, quit his job. He had a job at a state company, health, and he quit to do the startup thing as well. So it's completely different. But at the same time, it's important to say that at least the Norwegian state, is a mother. I feel like in Brazil, in the US, we feel like the state or no state doesn't make any difference. It doesn't really help. But here, there's so many policies to help people like single mothers, unemployed people, refugees. So the state really helps.
Yeah, within your background, and obviously not coming from the same culture, you also come from a family of business people, right? So how did that change the way that you see work? Did that influence this mindset, you think, like your family and your background in general?
Yeah, for sure. I don't feel I ever had a, the self-esteem I have right now. When I was living in Brazil, I was it was a big pressure of like, I need to be the best. I need to do things perfectly. I need to know exactly what I want to do in college, and I need to do well, and I need to get out of there and go work for a bank, or I need to be a doctor. I felt like I was never enough. And especially, see, I come from a family who has worked together forever. So that means that not all of them had a choice on what they were going to do. So there is this mindset that like work is not for pleasure. Work is where you make your money, and with that money, you pay for your fun or your interests. So that was always the mindset. And I was so lucky to find work that I love, that I feel good. Is it the best paying jobs? No. Working in fashion is no glamour. It's not a lot of money. It's just, it's a hustle, I will say. But I really like it. And moving here really influenced that. And also made me put more boundaries as well. Like, there's no way in hell I'm answering your email on a Sunday night. I'm not a doctor. We're not doctors. No need to talk about work on a Sunday night. I will answer your email Monday morning. So putting these boundaries, like I remember my first job that I was talking about, there were months that I made more money with extra hours than my actual salary because we worked that much. And it was like, it was a joke amongst everyone, like, oh my God, there was a specific desk. I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was like this X task. And it was like, oh my God, it's X day. So you know what that means. See you on Teams at 4 a.m. Yeah. But like those things are non-negotiables for me. And I understand, and everyone will always say to someone who wants to start their own business is, if you start your own business, you're going to work 10 times more. Yeah, I know that. I'm not afraid to work, but I'm going to work for myself. What kind of bothers me is this, that you need to be, and that's also coming from a very privileged scenario, being in Norway and stuff. But what bothers me is to work your ass off Sunday night and not be recognized for your efforts, and you're doing that for someone else's business, and they're calling you family.
Oh God, yes.
We're family, but I vacate in one place and you vacate in another,
Yeah, the family speech kills me. Like, no.
Yeah. And that's everywhere. I can say now, you can't escape. It's in every country, it's in every
No.
company.
And it's like, yeah, you being on Teams until 4 a.m. it's the bare minimum. Like, you're not doing anything crazy that other people wouldn't do. Like, it's the bare minimum
Yeah.
for them, and that's it. Like, it's wild. So you mentioned self-esteem, and you wouldn't have the same self-esteem that you have today. Can you talk more about that? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Like, first of all, work here is not everything. So you get to like see your value in other things as well. You're not just if I'm not good at work, I'm not good at anything. So when you are able to see your own worth in your relationships, your friendships, and how fucking strong and resilient you are for moving abroad. Doesn't matter if you're moving from Brazil to Norway or from Brazil to Argentina. Like getting out of your safe space with your family and your friends and your language, especially your language. Like we're really badass for doing that. And once you understand that and you're able to give yourself some praise for how strong and independent you are, I think the independence part was the number one for me. Not only financially, but like doing my thing. When everybody's telling you, I could never do what you did, and you take it for granted, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, yeah. But no, most people could never get out of a cozy Brazilian weather and live 6 months in the dark and in the cold. And I feel very independent for doing that and like for getting my priorities straight, like what I'm gonna do with my free time and being in a healthy relationship that allows me to be myself and be alone and travel alone, which is something that I really like to do. So I feel like the whole independence thing in all areas is what gave me this self-esteem that right now makes me feel very ready to take risks.
I really needed to hear that. That's so nice because I feel like for me here, the process was kind of like hyper focused on performance. So it was kind of the opposite to the point that sometimes I don't realize or recognize that, okay, this is what I've done. This is what I do every day. This is like I'm speaking my second language all the time. I feel like here, because work is such, it's the biggest part of your life. If you're not doing well, then you're nothing. You know, it's like that everyone's better than you, then everyone is. And it's so overwhelming sometimes. And I feel like for me here, the process that I went through was kind of the opposite that I'm like, I have no value. Like there was a point this year or last year, yeah, that I'm like, I I can't do anything. Like my self-esteem was the lowest it's ever been. And I think for on one hand, it was useful because then I guess you get to a point that you're like, okay, so if I'm not seeing value on this, if I'm not performing as I would like to, then I am forced to find my worth in other things. And I'm forced to see that, hey, this is not, everything. But I don't know, when the external world, and going back to what you're saying, like internal, external, when the external world operates in a way that reminds you every time that, yeah, you actually have to perform and you have to do well. And if not, like you're nothing because there are thousands or more other people that are better than you.
Mhm.
It's so overwhelming. So what you said just reminded me of the importance of the separation between what you do and how you perform to actually who you are and seeing your worth in other things. And independence, I think it's a huge thing. Like I feel like the feeling that you can rely on yourself is one of the most powerful things. They're like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if I'm good or if I'm not or what happens, like I can figure it out. I feel like
Mhm.
that's so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't matter if the world is falling down around you,
Yeah.
pick yourself up, do something, move on. I I think that feeling, and my guess is that you felt this way because in my perception, Brazil stands kind of in the middle between this Scandinavian way of living and working and the American way of living and working. So you went to a place that is super focused in career and performance. And it's very important that you do not think about yourself as only a workforce in the United States because you do so much more, which is crazy. And it's so time consuming and energy and also knowledge, like have so much to share. So you should never
Yeah.
feel like
I know. It's so hard. And sometimes I do feel afraid of like, okay, so what if I try to pursue something else? What if I don't know, it's so weird because I almost feel like, and I was telling you about this a little bit, but I almost feel like stuck where I have ideas, I have, ideas of what I want to do, but at the same time, I don't know, I feel like I'm still in the middle, in the middle of, okay, something that's, it's funny because you have the sensation that something is safe when it's actually not. Like when I think about my job, I'm like, oh, but I would leave something that's safe. Like,
Yeah.
girl, it's not. I work in sales. If I don't perform, I get fired. Like, this is not safe at all. Where you have the false sensation of, oh, it's something safe. And I'm gonna like, what?
That's a great that's a great point, because we do actually think we are so safe in our jobs, but we can be fired at any time. The company can go bankrupt at any time, or someone might not like you and want to kick you out. So it's actually not safe at all. And I won't say that I read it in a book, but of course I saw it on TikTok. A guy saying, when I told people I was gonna start my own company and they said, "Oh my God, what if you fail?" And then he was like, "Well, then I'm gonna get a job just like you." And to be honest, if you asked me 4 months ago if I would ever do something like this, I would say, "Are you crazy? I would never." But something really shift, and it's kind of as Vogue UK would say, it's kind of cringe. But after getting married, I actually really felt different. Because I got support for my husband, and he actually said the nicest thing ever. I was crying the other day after making the decision. I had already quit the job, and I was like, fuck, what have I done? Like, Stian, that doesn't make sense. Like, I need to ask for my job back. And he said, Anna, you found what you want to do for the rest of your life. You are so lucky. There is, oh, I remember what I asked him. I said, because we're getting married again, like we're throwing a party in Brazil next year. And I said, babe, there is this education that I want to take in gemology. And I said to him, babe, if we go totally broke and I want to use like our wedding money, our honeymoon money to take this education, would you be angry? And I said it kind of as a joke, but he said, of course not. You found what you want to do for the rest of your life. You are so lucky, and I will give you every penny I have for this dream. And I know that when I find what I want to do for the rest of my life, you're going to do the same for me. And he's 100% right. Like, I would do anything for his dream. So, like, when you have that kind of support, it makes things so much easier. And it's what we were talking about. Like, I did not have a choice. When something is bursting inside of you and you're like, I have to take some action, you do. And I told you, like, behind the scenes, that I went through a massive challenge on my first job here in Norway that really made me want to quit. And I thought about it so many times, but I didn't. I did not quit that job, and it was such a good reason, like, to tell myself and to tell other people as well, look, this is why I quit. And I didn't, because I felt like I still had things to learn from that company. I didn't feel financially safe to quit that job. And yeah, it wasn't reason enough. And I only left that job when I was hired by another company. So it's it's something you can't really explain. It's something that you feel and you're like, I gotta do it. So when you're struggling with an idea, like, should I quit my job? Should I pursue my passion? And like, when you know, you know. It's not like, don't blame yourself for not being brave enough to make a decision or to take this risk. Because if you didn't do it yet, it's because you're not ready. And when you are, you're gonna be ready and you're gonna do it and you're not gonna regret. Like, I have never lost 1 minute of sleep over this. Of course, I had second guesses. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? It's not easy every day, but every night I lay in bed and I'm like, this was so right for me.
It's funny because the process of getting ready, sometimes it's so, or being ready or finding something that you love, it's not linear. And I feel like sometimes we don't realize that we're going through it. And for me, the hardest part is having the patience. Or even when, what you said about aligning the internal with the external. Maybe you feel ready internally, but externally it's not the time or it doesn't make sense. For me, it's so hard to have the patience. And because I know that I'm a person who doesn't have a lot of patience, I'm always second guessing myself of, is this just me trying to, you know, like start something over again because I don't, so I'm always kind of like going circles. But I love what you said about you feel something and you know that you have to do something about it. But the whole process of becoming ready is long. Like, yeah, you started here and then you go here and then you go here and then here and then here. And you just go like all over into, okay, this just clicked. But maybe if you hadn't gone through all of that path, you wouldn't have gotten to where you are, basically.
I don't regret anything.
Yeah.
Anything that I did in my life, especially not professionally, even though I felt like shit so many times, so like countless times, and I felt behind. And it took me so long to find a job that I really liked. And I feel like even my own friends didn't give me a lot of credit in my early 20s because I wasn't like working at a bank or being an intern at a law firm. I've been an intern at a law firm actually, but that was very brief. But I realized I wanted to do swimwear in 2017, that I wanted to have my own business essentially in 2017. Now it's 2026, basically. So it's 9 years. 9 years. It's not 9 days. I did so much in between. I was depending on my father. I went to this job in Sao Paulo that barely paid. Then I got myself a promotion. It got a little bit better. Then I went for this job here in Norway, the first one. I stayed there for 2.5 years. Then I went to my second job here in Norway. So, like, everything was essential to get me here. And I can say with a lot of peace, like, I'm not making any promises. I'm not saying I'm gonna die working with jewelry. It might be that I start this gemology education that I'm telling you about, and I meet someone who's doing leather goods, and I want to do leather goods. Like, it might be, but I feel like as long as you're learning in the process and you're getting smarter, yeah, it's totally worth it. I always joke that like I really miss my old job. I had so many friends there, and as I told you, I had so much autonomy, but I would never not quit that job and go to this one. I would never not do something because everything you do is what takes you to a new place. And as long as you feel good about, like, look back and feel good about everything you learned, that's more than good enough. Like, you're not late. There's no such thing.
You know what? Hearing you talk about these experiences make me think, because I feel like many of us, we're at a job that we don't like. So it's very obvious that we want to do something else. You did some jobs that you actually liked with people that you liked. I mean, you had big challenges, as you mentioned before, but you said, like, I had people that I really loved. I think it's a very powerful thing when you can recognize that something is good for you, but it's not the thing for you. Something like, there are great things about this job. I like this career, or I like the people that I work with. This is great, but I'll let it be great. Like, that's fine. It's great. I'll take it, what I need from here, and I'll cherish this moment, and I'll remember these people or this experience with a lot of love. But still, it's not just because it's good that it's what's for me, or the path that I want to follow. I feel like sometimes it's hard because I feel like when we find things that are fine, or we're able to recognize the good parts about something, we're like, okay, so I'm even more afraid of letting this go because I recognize that there are things that I love. I think it's a very interesting and important mindset when you recognize something's good, yet that's fine. It's not necessarily for you. You take what you can, you cherish it, and you move on.
And I think it also goes the same way for you. You realize something is bad, but it's where you are, and you have to take everything you can from that opportunity until you are in a safe place emotionally, mentally, financially, to take the next step. Like, you can't get too attached, I feel, to how a certain job feels, because I mean, unless it's something very serious,
Yeah.
of course. I'm talking about like regular challenges of corporate life or work-life balance, regular challenges. But I feel like sometimes it's very like, oh my God, I'm gonna die on this job. My life is going to end. Or, oh my God, this is the best I can get. I can't get something better. Like, have you tried? What was the last time you applied for another job? Like, that happens a lot here in Norway. They complain so much, and I'm like, when was the last time you applied for a job? Oh, I don't do that. Like, what? So what do you mean? Like, when I was unhappy with my last job, I applied every day. But at the same time, I went to work every day and I took something positive from it every day. And I'm not being like positive in a toxic way, like, oh, be positive. Like, positive as in, I'm so pissed at this job right now. I'm not going to answer any emails in the next 2 hours. I'm just going to go through files. I'm going to read stuff and I'm going to learn stuff that I don't know and that I can't learn anywhere else. I'm going to extract knowledge from this job instead of giving knowledge. And then you become a better professional, better employee. The next day, you are a better employee and you do better for the company. But at least you also do better for yourself. And that's what always kept me going when I was struggling with my jobs in general. I'm like, I'm giving so much, I need to take something. And usually I like to take information, not like classify.
Not a compliance issue. We're just talking about like knowledge. Yeah.
Like knowledge, like, okay, I'm gonna go through this drawing and I'm gonna understand how a pair of jeans is made, because I'm not a designer. Like, I don't have to know every little detail, but yeah, that's good to know. It's good knowledge. You're a better buyer if you know how a good pair of jeans is made. So I'm gonna spend the next 2 hours looking at how jeans are made. I'm gonna watch 5 YouTube videos of denim factories, and I'm gonna get out of this terrible day knowing something more. So I feel like that's a good way of, when you understand that that experience you're having is actually making you a better person, a better employee, more intelligent. I feel really good when I feel smart.
But it's good because in this case, you're proactively seeking that. It's not just, oh, I'm showing up to work and I'm expecting that I will, just by being here, I'll learn whatever. It's like I'm actually putting time into looking at this drawing and doing this. So I like that mindset. And it reminded me of Liz Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, and Love. She said something. She love. She differentiate job from a career, from a passion or a hobby or in a vocation. And I love that she said that she always knew that she wanted to be a writer and that it was her vocation, but she had a contract with her job, which I love. Like, I love the way that she put it, because she says, I knew that in order to make a living, I needed a job. So I had many and I had plenty, but my contract with that was, I'm not going to resent these jobs because I know that for her case, she's like, I need them to be able to do my vocation, which is writing. So that's my contract. Like, I'm not going to be, if I absolutely hate a job, then I need to find a new job, but I don't have to love it, like absolutely love it, because I have a certain contract with that job. So I like this idea of like making a contract, whether that is, oh, this is where I'm going to make my money, whether that is, I'm going to extract, I love they said that, extract knowledge, not just give knowledge. I love that because that way you make it so that the job is not the center of your world and your identity, but more so like one of the parts of it that can give you something that you can apply tomorrow in a different job or in a business or in whatever it might be, versus just like,
Yeah.
being consumed by the frustration or whatever.
I don't know if I'm sounding a bit like controversial because I'm like, I'm not going to answer an email at on a Sunday night, but I will show up for my job that I don't like and do my best and learn a lot. I just feel like that's your relationship with, or at least how it works for me. It's try to find balance because it's not easy to put yourself out there and work at a company, and you just have to like find what works for you, where you're gonna put some boundaries and where you are not. Like make some agreements with yourself, like Liz says on her book. As long as you have a good agreement with yourself of what this job means and what you're gonna give and what you're gonna take, then you can be fine and understand like, okay, I need this work because I need to make a living. I need this work because if I stay, even people who don't need the money, but like maybe need the job because if they stay home all day, they're gonna be crazy. Like you need to understand why you need that job. Make peace with that. Show up, but also make sure that you are taking something from it. Show up and keep applying to other opportunities. Even if you're not confident, you have to do it. Everyone has to. It's healthy. It's important. And if people want to do something on their own, have their own business, prepare for that. And one day it will click.
Amen. I love that.
Amen.
So next steps, Brazil coming up soon. How do you feel about the move? How do you feel about what's to come? After spending some time abroad, like, do you still feel the same connection to the country? How are you feeling about it?
I feel great. I am not looking to be there forever or not even for a year. I think it was also convenient for us to go to Brazil. We're having a wedding there next year, and we have a very safe network of family and friends. So it's just very comfort zone for us to be there. I'm looking forward, and I'm just trying not to feel guilty about not having a plan, like a very, very specific plan. Like I know I want to work with jewelry. I'm looking into all these possibilities of education. I feel like if I want to do something, I want to be the best that I can be in that field. So I am trying to figure out how that's gonna look like for us when we're there. Yeah, it's exciting, but at the same time, I feel like I'm doing something right because I have been to therapy forever and once a week. And recently, my therapist said, now we can do it every other week. So I'm like, wow, I'm graduating, kind of halfway there. And I felt like she told me this as soon as I told her, like, look, that I was not guilty about quitting my job here and that I was not guilty about not knowing exactly what the next step was. And then when she was like, yeah, okay, I think you're ready to not see me every week. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like when my life looks the messiest it's ever looked is when you tell me I'm ready to take a break. Like that, okay. So I just took that as indication that I was doing something right.
Yeah.
I feel like we have this pressure to know the next step all the time. Like, but what are you gonna do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a emergency fund that I've built the past years, and I'm ready to use it.
And sometimes not knowing is actually what takes you to where you have to be, because you have no attachment to a specific path or a specific one thing. Like, you actually let life happen and you work with life in a completely different way. Not that, again, obviously, like, you're in this position because, as you said, you have an emergency fund. So it's not like you're just reckless. You're just like, yeah, fuck this. I'm gonna just quit and figure it out. Like, you prepare yourself for this moment in one way or the other, and I think you're gonna do amazing.
That was really nice that you said. I haven't thought about that from that point of view, that not having a plan takes away the limitations. Because yeah, if I had a very specific plan, most likely I wouldn't let things happen, and so much can happen. So much does happen all the time. Like, were the odds I was gonna get a job in a jewelry company? Like, I've never worked with that before. I have no formal education in the field. I only had a lot of passion. I have a friend. I have a friend that she was interviewing for a position in a fashion brand, and she just needed a job. She works for the UN today.
Okay.
So she's really smart, but she just really needed a job. And there was a position at a fashion brand from our hometown, Belo Horizonte. And then the owner was like, "But what's your interest in fashion? Like, how does fashion look in your life? What is your interest?" And you're like, "It's practical. My interest in clothes is practical. Like, I wear clothes." She's check. She did not.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
But my interest in jewelry was practical. I'm like, yeah, I love to wear it. But I don't know, when you kind of build yourself to say, to like do this interview and it makes sense. And you're like, look, I don't have the knowledge, but I have a lot of passion. If you give me a chance, everyone's capable to doing things. I'm just saying this because a lot of people ask me, like, oh my God, what did you study to do this? What did you study to do that? And I feel like sometimes it's so much more about how you use your experiences in your advantage than what you've studied. Of course, as I said, if I want to like go deep into something, like really do it, I want to be the best that I can be. So I am a big supporter of education. That's not to say that education is not important, but I just feel that, at least for me, when I was struggling with this, oh, I want to have a swimwear brand thing, I was kind of hiding myself behind so many courses. I did all the workshops you can imagine. Like, I was doing absolutely no practical work, and I was just like going to every course that I could go, and it felt so safe, because when you're studying, there's nothing really on the
line. Yeah.
line. Yeah, I mean, of course it's hard to be a student, but like, as long as you show up, do your part, you're good. Worst thing that can happen is you fail. So it's so much safer than the work environment. But I feel like if I didn't have the work experience that I have, and if I just kept studying and studying, and I'm saying that because a lot of people come to me because I like to talk about on social media how I took my business education and I applied it to working in the fashion industry. And there's so many women who didn't have the support from the family or like the courage to pursue a fashion education, and they are now lawyers and they want to work in fashion. They're like, what do I have to do? Like, do you feel like I need to take a master's in fashion design or something? And my first thought is always, do you want to be a designer? Because if you do want to be a fashion designer, yes, I do think you need to go back and study and become a fashion designer, because that's a very serious profession. But if you want to continue somehow in like the business part of it or the law part of it, like, you already got it. You have to put yourself out there, like offer to be an assistant for free in a photo shoot? Do you have a friend who has a fashion brand? Ask to spend an afternoon with them. Like, ask favors, create a page online to show your view. Like on this first interview that I had to be an assistant buyer, my boss at the time, after some time, he told me, actually, the only reason you got this job was because we saw your swimwear brand on Instagram and we thought you had really good taste. It was a brand that I didn't have anymore. That was just like on my bio on my Instagram because I always thought that it was a very beautiful Instagram page. I was proud of it, how it looked. And it got me my first job. So you never know. Maybe putting yourself out there digitally, your presence, talking about it, making a page that is like a mood board just to show your view. That's the advice I always give when someone comes to me and they're like, well, what do I do? Do I need to do an MBA? Do I need to do something formal? And these educations are so expensive. So my advice is always like, keep working, find a way of showing if you want to go into an aesthetic field, like find a way of showing it. Or if you want to be a singer, start posting your videos singing on social media. Like, no need to kill yourself, have a job, take a formal education, all that. Sometimes keep working and use that in your favor.
Yeah. I love that you said the hiding behind education and courses. I feel like sometimes the obsession with this is a way to trick our brains into believing that we're actually doing something or we're actually just stuck. Because you're not going to the field, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, so you're safe, but you feel like you're doing something. You feel like you're playing the game when you're actually not. It's like you just have this false sensation of progress when in reality, yeah, maybe you're learning a thing or two, but nothing is really happening. So, one last question for you in this topic, and then we can wrap. Is because you mentioned like maybe you didn't have a lot of the knowledge or the experience in that field, but you had the passion. And I feel like this example of the Instagram is a good one because it's not related to necessarily something that you said or something that you showed, but like it's related to you and your image and your taste. How else do you show this passion if you're going through an interview process? Like, how do you show that you're passionate about something and then you can learn? Like, any other advice on that end?
Well, I feel like you have to be honest. Sounds obvious, but to start with, it's something that you can feel in a room if someone is actually excited about it or if they're just pretending. And if you are actually excited about it, I'm sure you have reasons to be. So, for example, if you are interviewing to work at a beauty brand, at a makeup brand, like, oh, but I have no experience. But how long do you spend watching makeup tutorials every day? I bet you do yours, your makeup, your mom's makeup, your cousin's makeup, all of your friends' makeups to events and things like that. So like all the silly things, like in this interview to work in the jewelry business, I talked about how my father-in-law is a goldsmith and I spend so much time with him just watching him work. And every time I'm interested in a jewelry piece and I ask him to make it the way that I envisioned it relevant. Or how I was born in a state in Brazil that is known for mining and stones and precious metals. And it's part of our upbringing in this state to kind of like everywhere you go you see crystals and you see a lot of stores, a lot of commerce in this field because it's one of the main industries where we're from. So I'm sure if you're actually passionate about something, you can dig inside your brain and find out how much. Sometimes, as we talked the other day, sometimes you don't even realize how involved you are with something because sometimes you spend all the hours of your day watching baking tutorials and it doesn't cross your mind that you maybe want to be a baker. And things sound silly, but interview processes, like people hear crazy stuff. We always put ourselves down and be like, oh, but this is so silly. Like, I can't just say that I watched all the documentaries available on every streaming platform regarding fashion because everyone has done that. No, a lot of people show up to interviews and they didn't even read the website, the company's website. And that's also very important. Study for the position. Read the website. If they have a report, sustainability report from last year, and you say in their interview, oh, because I saw in your sustainability report from last year that you did this, this, and that. So I feel like you have to study, and I'm sure you can dig in your brain and find multiple ways you're related to that field, and also not be ashamed or embarrassed and think that what you do is silly and not enough. Because 9 times out of 10, it's much more than all of the people you're running up against.
That's a good reminder. And I think the most obvious things for us, we think that just because it's obvious for us, it's obvious to everybody. But no. So that's very helpful. Anything else that you want to leave at the table for us today before we wrap? Oh my God. No, if there isn't anything, no need.
I'm getting a bit hungover, like when you're scared, you send something wrong and you're like,
I'm very excited to publish this. This will be awesome. And it was really helpful for me, which are the conversations that I value the most, that I'm like, yeah, I needed this. So thanks for being here and thanks for everything that you shared. And I cannot wait to see what's next for you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I feel like you also said a lot of stuff that was very reassuring to me. I feel like that's so important. I think I want to leave that on the table, like how isolated us immigrant girlies feel, and most times don't do anything about it. Like sometimes I feel so lonely, and it's just, I don't know, it's not that it's hard to reach out, but it becomes your comfort zone. So like, I don't, this thing is bothering me, but it's like, it's not important enough for me to pick up the phone and call a friend. Like it's, and then you do it and you're like, oh, that was actually so helpful. So like this isolation that we do to ourselves when we live abroad, I feel like that, and this community that you are building and that you have built in the podcast, on TikTok, on Instagram, all that, it's so important because I've also built my small own immigrant girly community, and we exchange so much, and I feel like it's so helpful. It's like, don't hesitate to reach out because you will find out that your problems are not just yours. Everybody is going through exactly the same, or at least has gone through it or will go through it. We have so similar challenges. We really need to support each other.